For our virtual tour, we want to show the work that we've been doing around our forests and natural spaces. Here at Clarkson, we have over 500 acres of forest and wetland and river frontage, and we have our sustainability fund that we put up to a campus vote. So for fiscal year 20, the campus community voted on valuing our natural resources and trying to put money into our forests, essentially. So that's what we did, and we referred back to this anthropology study, environmental anthropology project that Camille Fraser, one of our professors, held, looking at how a lot of the students in the community, they didn't know that this part of the forest that we're in right now belongs to Clarkson, and another part, whether or not they were allowed in it, because there's a bunch of sort of industrial waste in front of it. So we decided we were going to sink our money into our natural spaces. We broke that up in a few different ways. We beautified our trailhead. Again, there was a lot of landscaping, sort of debris and old equipment that was out right at our trailhead, and we got that cleaned up. Lots of Greek life volunteers were involved with that. We got kiosks for this trail and for our other forest area, and we've been putting informational signs up and "You Are Here" signs up. We realized a lot of students that maybe they're not used to going into a 400-acre chunk of woods were getting spun around because there's so many mountain bike trails. And now we have these "You Are Here" signs. It's a lot more accessible. It's a lot more inviting and welcoming. Everyone knows that it's open to the public now.
So for the 2020 Sustainability Project, I've been working on a trail map. It's actually finished now. But basically we use GIS to map out the main trails in use in the Back 40, which is the huge plot of woods on Clarkson's campus. And this is to make it more accessible to people, so it's not as intimidating to go into the woods and be afraid of getting lost.
Another project we're working on is low-mow zones.
We're doing the no-mow zones to allow for an increase in biodiversity and also to promote pollinators to come back into this area.
We've had our construction club building birdhouses that are going to kind of mark those out. And our machine shop is donating a lot of labor. They're building a bunch of birdhouses as well, like blue jay boxes and some woodpecker boxes and bat houses and things like that. Planting wildflower seeds, and these are in sort of peripheral areas on the edge of the forest. And we've had loads of students already coming out to help pull up sod and start prepping those for planting in the spring. Our outing club has been building a lean-to, and we're going to start moving that out into the woods next week.
For the Sustainability Fund for 2020, we kind of proposed this lean-to project, which is that big structure there. It's going to be an Adirondack-style lean-to in the Back 40. It's going to kind of like sit on the beaver pond. I think it'll be a really cool resource for the whole campus community to kind of get outside and have a place to go relax and get out of the elements or spend the night if they want to. Just like a nice break from the craziness of campus.
And that's been, again, tons of volunteers and students getting trained in our machine shop so that they're allowed to use Clarkson's tools and equipment.
So I am helping out Alex French with the forest inventory for the Clarkson campus. So that includes the Clarkson woods, the Munter trails, and then everything else in between. So the woods by Woodstock, behind Morehouse, and over by the Bean Houses. So iTree is a software suite similar to Microsoft Office, but it's created by the USDA Forest Services along with a bunch of other organizations. And it basically allows you to put in data that you collect pertaining to trees, and it helps you analyze that data to give out different results so that you're able to help better your forest management. So we're doing this because we want to go through and do a forest inventory for Clarkson so that we can see how much carbon storage we have, so that we can help further better on the forest management that we have here, and that we can help teach students about what we have on campus.
Okay, so what we're working on here is we are using iTree to generate random forest plots, and what we're gonna do is use a biology lab with over 100 students in it, and starting next fall, they're gonna go out in groups and measure the trees in circumference at breast height and the height of them and species, and we're gonna be able to just kind of watch the growth and development, for better or worse, of our forest over time, and measure the carbon, measure the other ecosystem services that the forest has. we're measuring around 500 acres of space here, essentially, with all the land that Clarkson's got. We partnered with Tom, who's a forester, to help us establish where these plots should be and get permanent plots set up.
So we're setting up 30 plots, and they're going to be permanent plots with rebars and tags, I assume, at some point. And so we're going to measure, as Alex pointed out, species and condition and diameter. And so it's a continuous forest inventory plot, meaning that over time, if we come back a year from now, 5 years from now, we continue to take measurements. We can track growth, we can track forest succession, meaning over time we'll see changes in species composition, how fast trees are growing, if the density is changing, if the structure is changing, forests even age, are they uneven aged? So all of those things can be measured over time. And in addition to that, that information will be utilized for the carbon program, which will go back to Alex's expertise.
Okay, so we measured all the carbon outputs for Clarkson. We do a greenhouse gas inventory every year. And we just see this as an expansion of that. How we manage the land will affect how much carbon is sequestered into the land, how much carbon is released from the land. So we want to expose our students to that, and we want to take credit for when we're managing land well, and it's sequestering lots of carbon and it's very biodiverse, and we want to take responsibility and we want to hold ourselves accountable when we're not using our land well and we're sending out a lot of land-based emissions.
So I'm mapping out the invasive species on campus to show the school where we have them and to show how much they will be growing. The goal is to map these out every 5 years to show the extent of how much they've grown while they're untreated.
Another thing we've done is, through all this work, we realized that part of the reason that we weren't valuing as a community our forests is that there was no real ownership structure over our forests. So this project has led to sort of bringing all the stakeholders to the table. Now we have, in the Clarkson Operations Manual, we've defined a structure. All the stakeholders, our outing club, our recreation department, our Institute for Sustainable Environment, our biology department, our grounds department, environmental health and safety, our speed team, this engineering group on campus, who also use the forest quite a lot, our ROTC group, they're in the woods quite a bit. So we brought all those stakeholders. These are recreational spaces, wild spaces, and now we can make decisions collaboratively, and we can start to manage our woods a little more responsibly. And it's worked so far. The community, especially during all this COVID time, then we're getting a lot more traffic. People realize that we need these natural and wild spaces for mental health and our physical health.